Hi, everybody. My name is Keka DasGupta. I have been a longtime marketing partner with BlueSky Personnel Solutions, and I'm so excited to welcome Julie Labrie, president of BlueSky Personnel Solutions, to our interview today. We sat down a couple of times now during the pandemic, just as we were kind of making sense of everything. But as we are celebrating our 20th year in business and coming to the end, we thought this would be a really nice way to get a glimpse into the recruitment world from your eyes, Julie. So I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me again. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's so much fun. So there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of predictions throughout this pandemic of what's going to happen. I mean, first people were all about working from home and companies were worried about productivity and how we set things up, Zoom fatigue. And then there was this whole thought about the mass resignation, where everybody's going to be moving. So there's been so many predictions that have been made over the last little while. And I wanted to know from your eyes, what have you seen come true? What are the repercussions that we need to consider? Like, how would you say these predictions fared out overall this year?
I think the predictions are actually, pretty good and right on when it comes to resignations. We've just seen the tip of the iceberg. And when it comes to productivity, so one thing that employers were afraid at the beginning is that their employees would be less productive because they were home. And I think they realized that it was not the case. They're actually more productive. They work more hours, they're dedicated, and they're actually less stressed. And this is a big thing for most employees to have more time, more work-life balance, but they also work more. But they don't have to travel from home to their office. And that in itself releases the stress of having to go on the road, right?
Right.
So one thing that we've noticed is even right from the beginning, we're talking June here, June 2020, one of the questions we were getting from job seekers is, can I work from home with this position? And even after the pandemic, now we're getting close to 2 years soon, that is still the number one questions we get asked from job seekers. Can I work from home after the pandemic? And if the answer is no, they don't want to talk to us. This is still very important to them. It's actually what they want the most now is either work from home 100% or a hybrid model, having the flexibility to work from home. And if the employers are not offering it, it's very challenging for us to find a suitable candidate.
So employers really need to take note that if they are not going to be flexible in this kind of circumstance, they're going to lose good talent potentially, right?
Exactly. And one thing that makes me wonder is, why are employers so rigid to this change to the long term? Because they have no choice to do it for the last year and a half, and it has worked out. Right. So why is it that they can't offer the hybrid model coming up? This is a lot of the, this is something I always ask my clients. Some of them are really not flexible because of the nature of their industry. People have to be there. I understand that. You can't ask a nurse to work from home.
You're right.
Yeah. And if that person works in a hospital setting, like, it's just not feasible. But there's some office positions where you question, why is it necessary? And very often, there's no good reasons behind it other than, well, we find it's better for the morale of the entire team, but it has worked out and your employees are asking to work from home and asking to have the flexibility. Why can't you accommodate? So those are the questions that we always ask. When it comes to the resignations, we've seen that throughout the pandemic, most people have treated their employees very well. They've given them, flexibility. They've worked with them throughout this pandemic. But we've noticed also that some employers have not treated their employees well. They cut their salaries. They're bringing them back into the office without any flexibility whatsoever. There's different reasons and different things that people feel they're not being treated well. And because of that, they're on the lookout for a new position. They're really looking for a new opportunity. And we started to see that trend last year in November 2020,
Right.
when there was a talk about a vaccine coming out. We started to see an increase in people wanting to move. And
Right.
the increase has been happening throughout the year. So it's just, we're not done yet, because people are still able to work from home in
Yes.
some cases. But in January, a lot of companies are returning full time. And so it will be interesting to see what kind of shift is going to happen on the market. But for sure, we haven't seen, the tip of the eye. It's just the tip of the iceberg, really.
Right. It makes me think that for any company where company culture or the morale or leadership, if there's any cracks in the foundation, this is the place where employees are you're gonna see that reflected in employees resigning and leaving. Because over the past couple of years, especially as we were homebound for so long, it really made people start to take an audit of their life, right? What's working, what's not working? Do they like their job? Do they like their boss and their team? So it feels to me like, as employers today, we have to be extra careful to make sure that we're taking care of our employees, because otherwise these assets that, we invest, hiring is like the largest asset that we have for many companies. We're going to lose some of that if we don't pay attention as employers.
Exactly.
Yeah. So interesting. So then when we think about HR and hiring managers who are preparing for 2022, I'm just curious to think, like, what would you say is the most important thing that your clients need to know? Like, if you had a chance to tell them what they should prepare, what they should do, what would be most important for them to do next year?
They need to, first of all, if they haven't communicated their back to work plan, you need to do it now. I'm still amazed. I have some clients that I've spoken with recently, just 2 weeks ago, and they told me that they did not have a firm plan yet as to what's going to happen after COVID.
Right.
You had a year and a half to figure it out.
Yeah.
So communicate that to your employees, because if you don't, those employees are looking for other opportunities. And I can guarantee you they're being contacted by us recruiters and other companies, because there are too many opportunities for them out there. So you need to watch for them being unhappy in your position and their position. So you need to find out what their pain point is and see if you can make some adjustments. So you need to keep an eye on the fact that the salaries out there have increased drastically. In my last 20 years, I haven't seen that kind of increase so rapidly within the year. I've seen up to $10,000 increases. A lot of my clients have adjusted their base salaries accordingly to the market, because they realize that if they don't, they can't attract new talent. And as a result, so then they've increased everybody on board. They had no choice to do that, because if you don't want to lose your current talent, you have to adapt. So it's really important. So, and be prepared for resignation. You'll be prepared that you'll lose some of your team members because it's what's happening on the market. And it may not be because you've not treated them well, or they're just fed up with their position. It could be just circumstantials. It could be
personal reasons.
Personal reasons, but they've also received contacts from recruiters to give them an opportunity that's next door to their house, or it's something, a stepping stone to a different position. It could be different reasons, but most people right now are willing to listen. So it's really important for those employers to watch out, because their employees are being contacted, headhunted, and not only by us recruiters, but other companies. I have some of my clients that I know that they do that. They approach, if they're not competing with those companies, they'll approach other competitors that are not in their industry.
Right. So 2 key takeaways I heard there that I think are really important for HR and hiring managers to consider is, number 1, communicate with your current employees and find out what their pain points are and where they're happy, so that you can really have that honest, authentic conversation with them and you know what's coming up. Be prepared that you're likely going to have some resignations. It's kind of the movement is going that way. And sometimes people have personal reasons, their own reasons for why they want to look for something else. And then on the proactive side, on the hiring side, to really make sure that you are ready for the market the way that it is. So as you said, salaries have skyrocketed. If people haven't adjusted the pay bands for those positions, they're really going to be out of touch in a way and a little bit out of the competition, because like you said, there's so many companies proactively going out right now and searching for people. Yeah. It's interesting you say that in the past 20 years, you've never seen a hike that much. And it really kind of speaks to the shortage of labor in the marketplace, especially when it comes to French and bilingual talent, right? That's been ongoing, but it just seems to, the spotlight seems to be put on it even more now as a result. Yeah.
Exactly.
So can you, so let's take a look at the French bilingual landscape in that way. So when we think about that, you know, I know that you've said before that there's huge competition for really skilled talent. There's almost like bidding wars in a way. I think about real estate and think about it in the same way. Are there any trends or patterns that you're seeing across the country? Because I know that you recruit across the country. And so are there certain geographical insights or patterns that we should be aware of?
Not necessarily. I know that there's some regions in the country that are harder to recruit bilingual because it's just the location. In Montreal, there's a shortage of people. Like it's crazy how difficult it is to get good qualified candidates in the Montreal region, you know. So it's really it's challenging to get staff there. But then I have also positions, let's say in Eastern Quebec as well, that it's challenging. There are not enough people, and those positions are mostly French. They're not necessarily bilingual. So I haven't. It's challenging there too. So I'm noticing that it's pretty much across the board that there's a shortage of bilingual candidates, but also unilingual candidates. It's not just bilingual French and English. It could be just English or it could be French. There are not enough people. And I've told my clients recently that the shortage is it's not new to us. What has saved us, in a sense, I hate to say it, but back when we had the recession in 2009, 2008, 2009, we were lucky in a sense because the boomers decided to, well, they had no choice but to delay their retirement.
Right.
Because they lost so much on their RSPs and pension plan, and they needed to delay their retirements. Now they're going out en masse. And since 2017, roughly, we've noticed a shortage of staff. And now with the pandemic, it seems for employers that that's what created the shortage. But for us in the recruitment industry, the shortage was there before the pandemic. It's just it made people realize that the shortage is real. And the pandemic has forced those boomers to say, hey, listen, I can't work. Oh, I've been laid off. I'm not going back.
I'm out.
So that's going to be the end of it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's for people to realize that the shortage happened. We knew it was there. Right. And it's not the end, because there'll be more and more people out, and there are just not enough people to fill all of those positions. So what employers will need to do is to adapt and make some changes. We've seen it with restaurants where they're not open as many hours as they used to, or they'll be closed certain days to give their staff the rest that they need. Otherwise, they'll be overworked. So there's adjustments like this that needs to happen. And then I've even seen in the media recently that some retail stores will have automated cashier where you just cash out on your cell phone and there's nobody at the front.
It's a whole new world.
Everything is changing because there are not enough people to manage and to handle those positions. So, and I'm giving you the example of retails, but it's across the board for all positions to all levels, you know, to entry to senior levels, we're seeing that there's a shortage.
Is that why the salaries have been going up in that capacity, just because of the lack of shortage? Then It's that sort of model of scarcity.
It has gone up because there's a shortage, but also the fact that a lot of people were laid off during the pandemic because they had no work. And they were all recalled at the same time. And then it has driven the salaries up. You want someone, well, you have no choice. Then you have to pay them more for them to recuperate some of the money that they lost during the pandemic, but also the fact that there are nobody for those positions.
And that's a really great insight, Julie, you were sharing around the boomers, because there was so much conversation about the mass exodus of boomers. And then you're right, there was a delay. And so it almost feels like a quiet exit at the moment that not everybody's talking about front and center. But that's just compounding this entire shortage. Like there's shortage in French bilingual talent to begin with. We're looking at skilled workers. We see this mass exodus. Like it is something where I think as employers, we really have to look at the bigger picture and see where the market is changing and adjust that way. Because so quickly we can find suddenly we're not prepared, right? That's really important.
Exactly. So it's so important that those employers realize that it's not, the problem is not new. And those employers who have success right now, they kind of had a plan. They knew they needed to attract new talent and train them and bring them up to speed. But a lot of employers didn't. They're reactive. And I get that. I understand we're all too busy to plan ahead. Yeah. But
this is the kind of thing. This is why in 2022, it's important to start talking about it now. Absolutely. So I would ask you then, this entire year has been a milestone year, 20 years in business for you, which is just incredible. I wanted to ask you that if you look back upon the last 20 years, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned in this process?
You need to be flexible and adaptable to your client's needs. When we opened up BlueSky 20 years ago, the heavy focus was on temporary placements. And over the years, and as we kept growing, the clients kept asking us for more permanent employees. And then we had no choice but to shift towards more permanent positions. And then the shift kept growing on the bilingual side. We kept getting requests on bilingual candidates. And we realized that we really enjoyed that.
Right.
So we felt, well, why not just focus and do more bilingual positions and just be an exclusive niche for bilingual French and English recruitment? And decided to have the staff to support that as well. And I think that's made us stronger as a company, and the focus changed, but we became more flexible because of what was happening on the market with our clients. We went with the flow as opposed to saying, no, this is how we do it. We're going to do it. But we kind of adapted to those clients, and those clients are not with us for nothing. They're still with us today, 20 years later.
You have some incredible client. Yeah, you have. I'm sorry, I didn't want to mean to interrupt you, but you have some incredible client testimonials with clients who've worked with you for over a decade, 15 years, 20 years even. And in this industry, that's rare. So it's a kudos to you in terms of the service that you provide and how effective you are. But I always really am in awe at the relationships that you build with your clients. Like, it's really a testament to your company and what you've built.
Yeah, and I think it's important. And I think how one of the reasons why they tend to stick with us is because we're honest with them, and we're I'm upfront. This is the first thing I tell my clients when I meet them. It says, I'm direct and upfront. If I can't find someone, I'll tell you. And I think that's why they stick with us. I don't just make it look nice. I tell them how it is. The same as I've had a call recently with a client that found us on Google. And I basically told them that what they were paying and their job description and the requirements were not, they were not going to be able to find anyone. And that's why they've been looking for 3 months.
Wow.
So I said, you need to make some changes. If you can't make changes, unfortunately, I am not going to be able to help you because I'm not going to be successful.
Right.
And this is something I've always done with my clients, that if I can't do it, I'll let them know. And I think that's why they appreciate it.
Right.
Because one of the things that they tell me when I meet them initially during a meeting is what they don't like is that they get this big presentations from my competitors that they'll do this and that, and they just don't deliver.
Right. Yeah.
I tend to not to do that. It's not me. I'll just give them the truth, what's happening. And if I can't do it, I'll let you know.
Right.
But that's how I am in life anyway.
Yeah.
I'm very upfront and direct. You know that.
I do. And, but that is such a great lesson in there, Julie, what you're saying. I think there's something really valuable in there, in the sense that the greatest lesson that you said, is sort of be flexible and focus on what your client's needs are. And what I love about this is that if you go to a client and say, I'm not going to be able to help you, or, what you have is not quite right for the market, or we've been looking and we just can't find somebody. I think there's a psychology inside of us in the service-based industry that we're actually not being helpful to our clients. But what you're doing is the opposite. You are, in fact, on the side of the client because you are being upfront. So they don't have to figure out and decipher what is the actual reality of it. They know that you're going to give them exactly what they need to know. And so that's incredibly valuable, I think. And I do think in this industry, it sets you apart for sure. And I love that this is you. So what is beautiful about this is that your team and you're very authentic in the way that you approach your clients. Like who you are is what people get. There is no surprises there at all. Yeah. And they know what to expect as a result. So there's a mutual respect that comes from that. I've always felt that when I'm like watching the interviews or conversations with your clients, and their feedback has always been, they really see working with you as a business partnership. And there's just such great respect in that field and what you do for them, which is really, it's something worth congratulating, hence the 20th anniversary and all of your successes there. Yeah, I love it. Okay. So, I wanted to ask you that, when it comes to during the pandemic, for example, many businesses were challenged, many suffered, and others grew. I know that in your business, you got busier. Things slowed down obviously initially, but you've gotten busier. Your business has grown significantly. And in precarious times like that, you've had the most incredible testimonials. So, in addition to what we just talked about, that relationship with clients, is there a bit of a secret sauce to the way that you do business that, you can share with us a little bit?
I think one of the reasons why we're successful, in a sense, I think it all comes down to our network. The network of our candidates, because we really enjoy doing bilingual recruitment. There's some positions that I enjoy more than others. That's the truth. That's always been like that. And I think that's why we decided to make the switch, because when we were getting bilingual requirements and requests from our clients, that was exciting. That was fun. That was interesting.
Right.
And I think because we grew that over the years, it's still more interesting. So really, for me, it's the fact that we have that network that makes a difference. Because how come our clients, they go and advertise, they try for 2, 3, 4 months sometimes to recruit on their own. They come to us and then we turn around and then we're able to find them the right fit. It's because we have a network that we can go to and pull from. And I think that makes a difference.
Yes.
And I understand clients, sometimes they don't have that network. They don't know all the little
nuances, right?
Yeah, nuances. Exactly. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to search. Candidates are inundated with advertising online.
Right.
Very often they're active.
Yeah.
But they've never seen the ads that my clients have advertised.
Right. Yeah.
So that makes a difference. And also the way we explain, and we know when we're talking to candidates what they want. When a client gives us a mandate to work on, we can right away, we're matchmakers, so we're able to find the person. We say, oh yes, right away, I have this person. They live, not really far. And I think that's why it makes us unique in a sense.
Right.
It's the network and what we bring to the table.
And, when you say the network too, I think that there's so much that you and your team do that I think is noteworthy for clients to know, and prospective clients too, to know, is that in the same way that you take care of clients and you're very upfront with them, I've always noticed that you do the same thing with candidates. The way you treat clients is also the way you treat candidates, with a lot of respect. There's so much ghosting in this world, right? People go in for an interview, never hear anything. You never do that. You keep, you're very upfront with people. I know at one point you said, once you've talked to candidates and said, listen, if I don't have anything for you, I'm not going to call you. Just be prepared. But even knowing that and hearing that at the beginning allows people to feel like they're respected, and they're not sitting and waiting and checking their email all the time. So I feel like the relationships that you've cultivated in your candidate network speak volumes, because then when you are going out and approaching somebody about a job, there's a certain level of trust that you've already established. And I know, we did a Q&A with Marianne earlier this year, and it was just, you could really feel her heart in this business. And what I loved in that interview and kind of her content there was that this matchmaking part of it, she loves the fact that she can take somebody who she sees as a really good fit and put them in their dream job. And then that company ends up having a superstar employee. And the result and the impact of that is part of what drives her, in the fact that she loves that. And I think that speaks volumes to how you approach the candidate network too. So it's not just that you have the contacts, but you've cultivated the contacts with a lot of respect and authenticity. And I think that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the candidate experience is really important, because we want to make sure that if we didn't have a successful placement with the candidates today, doesn't mean that we can't call them back again. And we want to have them return our phone calls or emails in the future if we have a position.
Yes.
Right. So it's
Absolutely.
really important to make sure that when we tell the candidates, okay, we're going to present your profile to a client.
Yeah.
Then if the client is not interested in their profile, then we get back to them and say, okay, sorry, the client is not moving forward your profile. And that's the end of it.
Right.
But we're not ghosting them.
Right. Yeah.
Because we don't want that in return from them.
Yes. Yeah. You told me one story that really stood out to me. And that was that, you even had, for example, candidates that you had put forward to an employer. They didn't get the job. But then a few years later, when they got into a position where they needed to hire, they remembered how nicely you treated them. And they called you to make the placements for their job. That speaks volumes to me in terms of the kind of business you run.
And it's always amazing, because it's like, oh, really? And the reason, and most of the time they tell me, you sent me forward to this client. I was not selected, but I remembered you because of how you treated me well.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. But you don't think about it when you're doing placement. You just do your job and make sure that you're respecting the candidates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's always good to know that they turn around and then they call us, because they felt that we treated them well, because they know that the candidates we'll put forward are going to be treated the same.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing. Okay. So I have one last question for you. And this is not just for you, but I think it's for anybody who's in the hiring market for this fall and for 2022 coming up. So HR managers, hiring managers, and whatnot. I always think that, in our service-based industries, and specifically in recruitment, if clients come to you prepared in a certain way, you can maximize opportunities for them. And so there's always ways to optimize a process and make it really good. So if a client says, okay, I'm going to be hiring some talent, I'm going to call BlueSky Personnel Solutions, I want Julie's help and her team's help, what are the kinds of things that you would like them to do or prepare ahead of time so they can really maximize the experience of working with you?
Well, it's quite simple. All they need to do is to make sure that they take the time to have a quick call with us to discuss the position. What I really want to find out from them is the information that's not written on the job description, what's beyond the job description. So tell me about who has fitted best in a position in the past, what kind of background and experience those people have, and also who this person is going to be reporting to, the style and the personality of the manager, because all of that information is so valuable to us. And that information is really important to find the right fit, because that's how we can be successful. If you don't have the time or don't take the time and make the time to give us that information, we're not going to be successful. We're going to be sending you resumes that may not be a fit, and that's not what we want. We want to have as much information from you as possible, because we're not in your culture, we're not in your environment. So we really need to have all of these little details that will make a difference for us. And communicating with us on and receiving feedback is extremely important. So when we're sending you a resume, we need to get feedback quickly, because the candidates are going to be gone if we don't keep them interested. And we're talking here, candidates have 3 to 4, I've seen 5 offers at once recently.
Wow.
Candidates getting, so they had to pick and choose between 5 different companies. I think it's a little extreme, but
them.
everybody wanted them. Everywhere they went, they received an offer. But it's really important that we get that kind of feedback, because we want to keep the candidates interested, and we want to make sure that we're getting you the right profile. So the feedback and the communication is extremely important for us.
Great. So 2 key takeaways that I'm taking away from what you said is that, number one, it is really important not to think of this placement as a transactional, like you're just going to find me a person to fill this job. But as a recruiter, you're really the brand ambassador for the client. So you need to be able to know their culture, understand their leadership style, the whole context behind the job, because that's what really empowers you to find the best perfect fit for the job. So just recognizing that time investment for that call and giving that information is really critical to the process. And then number 2, and you've talked about this before, Julie, I think it's so critical in this industry, is that everything is moving so fast right now. So we have to come to this process with the understanding that there is no time to wait. There's such a shortage in talent that if we wait, we're going to lose talent. So keeping that communications open, giving feedback. So if somebody doesn't work, why don't they work? What was missing? Sometimes it's a little bit of the, it's the intangible, but I always have found that you and your team are so good at intuitively picking up on the things that are missing, but that communication is really important with clients for you to be able to do that, right? So right. Yeah. Lots of opportunities in recruitment in the future. It's an industry where there's so much that's happening. And so it's really good to know that your expertise and everything you do is there to serve clients. And once again, I want to say congratulations on 20 years of incredible business success. You and your team are really extraordinary. It's always a pleasure for me to work with you, but I am really echoing what all your clients say just in terms of what you deliver. So congratulations. And thank you so much for being with us here today.
Well, thank you, Keka.